Just to flag, I don't think anyone is on yet. There are no attendees. Hi all, I just wanted to thank you for joining this product-based guided discussion hosted by Gradient Health Systems. We appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon. I'm Miriam Khan. I lead communications for Gradient Health Systems based in New York. And I'm joined by my colleagues here. I'll turn it over to my colleague Ingajima to give us a bit of an introduction on our panelists, and then we will get started with the conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Maliam. Hi, everyone. I just take this opportunity to welcome you all for your vital time to join our webinar, which is based on the UAM. So I want you guys to be very free to participate on this session and be free to ask anything you want, because here will make you to understand what we want you to know on our product. So I hand out this information to Dr. Papicho to introduce themselves, and then we can start our session. Dr. Papicho, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ngajima. I do appreciate the time that our colleagues have sacrificed to be here today so that we can talk and discuss about the products that we are discussing this afternoon, Evaporizer. I'm not alone for this discussion. I have two panelists with me who are on this call. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. Myself, I'm Dr. Papicho, anesthesiologist based in Livingstone, Zambia. Dr. Ndaba, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Dr. Papicho. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Papicho, and welcome everyone on the call. I'm glad to be part of this very important conversation on UAM vaporizer and the use of inhalational agents. My name is Dr. Ndaba Sipuka. I'm from Zambia. I'm a physician anesthetist. I've also been a lead clinical trainer for Gradient. So once again, I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to the conversation that we are going to have together. Thank you, Dr. Papicho.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndaba, for this introduction. Dr. Sweetbird, can you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Papicho. Hi, everyone. As I was called, my name is Ansbeth Sweetbird Ndebea, an archaeologist based in Tanzania, but also involved in guardian training. So basically, I'm one of the clinical trainers. So I'm happy to be here with you to share experience, the discussion. I hope this discussion will be very useful regarding vaporizer and the use of inhalation agents. So looking forward for the fruitful discussion. Thank you, Papicho.
Thank you very much. We are good to go with our presentation, discussion. Our dear participants who are here, I will request that you be very active into this discussion, open up, bring up all the challenges, your experience are welcome so that we discuss together, we get to complement each other. The program is very short.
Hello, Dr. Papicho. Hello, Dr. Papicho.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I just wanted to make a quick request, if possible, that the other participants may introduce themselves as well, so that we get to know each other briefly, if that is okay.
That's very good. We'll give them time and opportunity to speak. You can unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Okay, we can start with Wigane. Wigane, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Tell us where you work.
Everyone should have access to unmute themselves. If you just press the red microphone icon, you should be able to speak.
Okay, whilst Wigane is trying to unmute him or herself, if there's somebody who's ready to speak, please feel free to unmute yourself and tell us who you are and where you work from.
I'm Lucas Chibwana from Kigoni Health Center.
Welcome to this meeting. You are very much welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Mohammed, are you there? Flavian, can you unmute yourself and speak to us?
Hello, I'm Flavian Kako from Simiyu RRH. We are together.
You are welcome, Flavian.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Keep your mic on and off. We'll be calling upon you to make comments during this conversation, during this discussion. Is Charles ready to speak now? What about Mohammed? Is Mohammed there? Okay, I'm sure we'll catch up later with our two colleagues. This is a brief agenda of our today's discussion. We're going to have an overview of vaporizer, trying to see where vaporizer started from as history and the type of vaporizers. The application of draw-over vaporizer during anesthesia, particularly on the UAM. Examination of advantage and disadvantage of a draw-over vaporizer. We also look at the consideration for maintaining and ensuring that safety is being maintained during the changeover of this situation that we are going through from alloten to isoflurane. What are the key notes that we should have in mind every time we're giving anesthesia and then we are changing the agent? Next. To discuss this, during this webinar, we are going to use a case scenario. So during your time of work, you receive a 2-year-old male patient with a right inguinal hernia, which is irreducible. Is brought to the emergency department for anatomy. The child is agitated and anxious. In the ward, the patient was too agitated. The staff could not cannulate the patient. Is brought to theater for surgery without an IV access. So now you, as the anesthetist, you receive the patient. We want to know what would be the ideal way of assessing this patient and what would be your anesthetic plan. Dr. Ndaba, would you have an idea on how it would be ideal to process on this patient? What would be your suggestion?
Yeah, and thank you so much, Dr. Papicho. I think this is it should be a very common scenario. And I know that even our participants on the call may have had an experience with such kind of a case. And it would actually be interesting to know how any of our participants actually may have handled a case like this. A pediatric patient without an IV access coming in for emergency surgery, which has to be done. How would you go about it? More or less a common kind of scenario, and maybe not the exact surgery, but it can be any other surgery. But the key issues here is a 2-year-old uncooperative child coming in for emergency surgery, and then they do not have an IV access. So maybe I think before I come in, Dr. Ntambwe, may I request that maybe any of the participants can actually maybe give it a go or share any related experience with this particular case? Any of our participants would like to maybe give it a go before I share my own experience briefly.
Okay, somebody to volunteer among the participants. I'm sure you've gone through this before. What did you do? Your experience? We're here to share our experience and learn from each other. Should I welcome? Lucas, what did you do when something happened to you? Or what will you do if it happened to you during your shift?
Such a case for my side, we didn't meet it, but for my opinion, first of all, we can use I think we can open the line, but previous doctor said that the child is not settled, or the way to find the line can be very difficult. So my opinion, can use the housing as a first for anesthetics in order to relax the muscles to find the line to open.
That is a wonderful insight. I'm sure from this insight that you've just given on the floor, Dr. Ndaba is going to pick it up and share more of what he thinks he would do when he's on duty and then such thing happens. We can have the next slide. Next.
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Ndaba, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. So I think Lucas gave us a much more precise response to the anesthetic technique of choice, and I quite agree. And what I would add is that we should always remember to, and I know all of us do this, to just make a quick pre-assessment. I think this is standard for our practice, a quick pre-assessment, history and examination, looking for the obvious things that we do when we are pre-assessing a child. We review, of course, we review also any lab results available. This is always recommended, regardless of whether the case is elective or emergency. We take just a few moments to pre-assess and just check that our patient has any risk factors. And then after that, we, of course, do our anesthetic plan. And then in this particular case, we are dealing with a pediatric, a child coming in without an IV access. What are the options for induction? And so also we have to remember, before we actually get down to anesthetize a child, we need to prepare our space and make sure we are ready for anesthesia, meaning the airway, the drugs, emergency and anesthetics. And I always like to advise that when we are inducing a child, if you're able to get help, or maybe you are the two of you, it's always safer and gives you more confidence for a child, because remember, if you're going to use inhalation or induction, monitoring of for the child, so always try to get a second hand. Always try to get help around you. Then inhalation or induction in this case is for me, I think even Lucas mentioned, it's a anesthetic plan of choice, and halothane is very good at that. I think most of us have experienced inducing a child with halothane. So a gas induction, you leave them breathing spontaneously, you put up your monitoring, and then you get help to get an IV access. You get an IV access in, it means you are good to go with the rest of the anesthetic. I think personally, Dr. Papicho, that would be my quick approach. I'm glad that Lucas mentioned the anesthetic plan of choice, which is gas induction. I know we'll discuss more with this as the presentation flows. Thank you, Dr. Papicho.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndaba, for that wonderful insight that you've added on this point. Lucas, that was a wonderful answer that you brought. Just really opened up the flow for further discussion during this webinar. Next slide, please. So this is how vaporizers have evolved over the years. We started by having simple inhalation, simple inhalers, which started as far as in the period of HITA when Morton Gordon started up giving HITA for a patient to sleep. And after years, we now talk of more modern vaporizers. And vaporizers did evolve alone. On the other side, we also have anesthetic machines that move from the simple gas bottle to the Boyd machine, now to the more specialized workstation that we have this time. And not forgetting the more valuable and useful machine designed on its own with its particularity, the UAM. Okay, so this picture is showing us how anesthetic devices have evolved over the years. Next. So talking about vaporizers, because we said you are going to induce your patient with halogen, that halogen will be given to a vaporizer. So we would like to discuss a bit on the type of vaporizers, and this type of vaporizers will depend more on how it functions and then this is how it makes the difference, okay? So we all know that the anesthetic agents that you put in a vaporizer have to be given in a form of vapor, and that vapor has to be delivered to the patient. And for it to be delivered to the patient, it can either go directly from the vapor bottle to the patient, being carried by the anesthetic, being carried by the fresh gas flow, or it can be split into two ways, one passing through the vaporizer and the other passing aside the vaporizer, and then giving us the two types of vaporizers, one the bypass vaporizer and the measured vaporizer, where the flow is passing directly to pick up the vapor of the anesthetic agent that is being generated from the bottle. Next. Before we go further, Dr. Sweetbird, based on that presentation of the two types of vaporizers, in which group can we classify the UAM vaporizer?
Papicho,
Yes, Kaka.
how are you? So,
I'm good, Father. How are you?
yes, of course. I think there are two type of classification. Yeah. There's this one where as they are projected, whereby we have the bypass, whereby the gas has to be splitted and then it pass through the valve, but also that's the measured one. But also the classification based on the pressure, whereby either you create a positive pressure where there would always be continuous flow in the valve, or you can do it with a negative pressure, whereby you create a negative pressure distal to the valve, and that will suck the inhalation agent, and that's where our UAM valve is at the draw over. So that will be on the negative. I think it'll be more on the next slide, and that's where our valve is classified to. Next.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. We are getting to know deep and out the machine together as you are opening up in this discussion to go deep and talk about our UAM type of vaporizer. On the next slide, please, as Dr. Sweetbird have mentioned it already, there's that vaporizer that will work with a positive and a negative. So this one is called draw-over vaporizer because it's a negative pressure that is being generated and letting the vapor run through. Okay. Next. So this one has already been discussed by Dr. Sweetbird, and then we know already what is there. We can move on to the next. So here now come the specification on how to induce your patient when you're using the UAM vaporizer. Okay. We all know that the UAM vaporizer is attached on a back bar, and then the flow runs through the back bar and then pass to the circuit and goes to the patient. You have to be sure that first the vaporizer is steady and well connected, not shaking. If it's shaking, meaning it's loose, then it could be some leak. Then you have to involve your biomed to make it steady. You have to make sure that there's an agent into the bottle by checking on the side of the bottle where the level is showing. And then after checking, all this is done during machine check. Now you connect your patient to the monitor for monitoring, and then you start by oxygenating the patient. This is what Dr. Ndaba explained earlier on when you are inducing your patient using inhalation technique after oxygenation. And then now gradually you are going to open up the knob and give your inhalation agent at the desired rate until the patient goes to sleep. At this point, I'll come back to our participants. Maybe they have other technique that they use, okay, when they are doing inhalation agent. Is there someone among the participants who have another technique that they use for inhalation? I don't want to mention names. If there's just somebody who says, no, I also use this technique, or someone can say, no, I use a different technique. You can just give us some little highlight. Anyone is willing to tell us what they do? Tumaini, can you share with us your experience?
Hello?
Yes, please. Can you share with us your experience? How do you do induction in your practice when you are doing inhalation agent?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Very audible. You are very audible.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to hear your technique. We want to hear your technique of induction. How do you induce your patient
Okay.
when using your UAM? When using your UAM, if you are doing inhalation or induction, how do you use it? Just tell us how you do it in the practical basis.
Okay. Yeah. Always here in our institution, we are doing by, we give the inhalation anesthesia in pediatric patients. So we give by using, putting the mask, and then we give test with the we oxygenate the patient, and then we open the, because our radiant machines does only halogen, which is the drug, which is the safe drug in inhalation, because it is not irritant. And we're using, if we can use the TPs, or we're using the YP system by giving by mask until the patient is get to sleep.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. Dr. Sweetbet, would you have some few comments to make on that one? On the induction with inhalation agents when using UAM vaporizer.
What?
Yeah, thank you, Papich. I think Tumaini said this well, but some addition is, I hope, depending on the age and KT, you should have the proper breathing circuit. You know, with the UAM, less than 10 kg, that's what go for the TPs. And then the way, so now the flow comes in, whereby I have to make sure this goes all the way to the patient, but also for the more than 10 kg. That's why we can allow you to go with the normal circuit. But yes, of course, same procedure. You have a kid. So this, I think, depends on the protocol. There are some, when the kid is very agitated, they give something, and the other some even go through the way they can give ketamine IM, where so that calm the kid down as they going inside the theater. But some, they take the kid the way it is and go in and gets down the patient, put you a line, and then you give you another drug, including induction, complete induction, maybe analgesia, and then you end up in your case. I think that's all. That's my additions.
Okay, thank you very much for adding up. And I guess everything put together plus what to mind say, it makes it to be a very good practice on how we can induce. And remember, it's during induction where sometimes we have complications, especially for pediatric. If we wrongly induce them, we can start already from the beginning, spasm and other airway complications. But if we do it correctly, following the technique as discussed here, is going to prevent us from having or from going through different complications that can come along on induction.
Just an additional comment, Papicho.
Yes, please.
A quick one. So I think I would just like to slightly amplify on what the earlier speakers mentioned regarding inhalation or induction. So I know there are some protocols in different places regarding children and cannulation. You know, there are some hospitals where it's like a rule that every child going for surgery, they don't even attempt to put a cannula, saying they'll go and put the cannula in theater because they would give, you know, gas induction and all. So in some centers, it's like a protocol. So they only cannulate children in theater, and the child has to be cannulated by an anesthetist. So I just wanted to quickly mention that sometimes it's always also a good option if an IV access can be secured actually before we induce the child. For me, it's the safest. You are inducing whether gaseous or IV to have an IV access secured. I'm saying this because now I know later on we'll discuss the issue of isoflurane. I mean, the halogen transition. Yeah, so I think it's always important that even when the ward declares that they've failed to cannulate the patient, just make a quick assessment, because sometimes, you know, people from the ward, sometimes they give up too early or they haven't even attempted. And then when you assess for yourself, you find that it's an easy cannulation and you can easily put in an IV access very quickly before induce. So it's just a habit that I would like to recommend, that even as an anesthetist, even if in the ward they failed, we just make a quick assessment and see if we can get access at the first attempt, so that from the onset you are safer. Yeah, just thought of adding that as we, you know, going to discuss on the issue of halogen transition later on. Thank you, Dr. Papicho.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndapa, and the two previous speakers, Dr. Sweetbird and Dr. Temai. So for now, we are going to go to the next slide, where we are going to discuss another point. We've discussed about the draw-over type of vaporizer, which is on the anesthetic machine. Like for any other device, there's always advantage and disadvantage. Before we display the slide for advantage and disadvantage, I'll first involve my colleague, the participant. If somebody can just unmute and give us what they know could be the advantage of a draw-over vaporizer. Without mentioning the name, anyone to volunteer to unmute himself or herself and tell us the advantage of a draw-over. Remember that there's no wrong answer here. We are discussing. Please unmute yourself and make comment. Who has not spoken today? Let's start with Mohammed. Is Mohammed around now? Mohammed, are you there? Mohammed Amin. Charles, which advantage do you know? Shaddai? Salim, can you say something? Okay, we're going to discover all of us what are the advantages and disadvantages of a draw-over vaporizer. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have more advantage than disadvantage for a draw-over vaporizer. Okay, it's light and easy to use, very simple to operate. We've seen very complicated type of vaporizer whereby for you to use, you need to go through training, different orientation. This one, the draw-over vaporizer on the UAM, simple to use, easy. The cost, it's very effective. It can easily be used for a cycle system and accept a low flow as well. It has low resistance. Remember, resistance has always been a challenge during anesthesia. All disadvantage that we mentioned make the vaporizer to be one of the best vaporizer that you can use, especially in terms of rural settings when you're doing hardship anesthesia. And this is the best vaporizer that is used in the military equipment, military setup when they go for military camp, or even when you go to mount a different camp elsewhere where you want to do both anesthesia or both surgery. Few disadvantages that we can mention, it's in terms of precision that is limited, okay? The concentration sometimes cannot be achieved as you would like. It might require frequent calibration. By regular calibration, it doesn't mean that you do it every day, no. It can be yearly or 2-year basis that you calibrate it. This performance being affected, it affects all type of vaporizer, and even the calibration, even the most modern vaporizer, the different type of vaporizer, they also need calibration. So this, I will put it in the terms of like, these are specificity of maintenance of all vaporizers. They need calibration, and there are factors that affect them in terms of their performance, okay? But at this point, we focus more on the advantage of using a draw-over vaporizer compared to other type of vaporizers. Okay. Before we move to next steps, I'll ask if Dr. Subet have a few ways to add up on this advantage. And in your practice, have you noticed the advantage of this Dr. Sweetbird, if you can correlate this advantage to your practice, what will you say?
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Sweetbird, you are audible.
Sorry. I think my network is blasted up. What was the question, my friend? Sorry.
Yes, I was asking if you had to correlate the advantage of a drug vaporizer to your daily practice, what comments can you make?
Okay, thank you. I think this goes to our practice and actually depend on where we are working, yeah. Because I remember as you see on the advantage, it's low resistance. Actually, I'll go basically on the maintenance. With the other machine, which are complex, where we need a biomedical team, or whoever, someone who is around to do calibration, all of those. With the draw saves you time and saves you a lot of time and man, of course. And of course, the other thing which you needed allow to make sure you have someone who can do the service for you. But also being as we always teach our colleague during our training, with the drover, especially with the UAM one, we are the one doing the maintenance, things like training it up when you're adding drug, and then maybe after certain time to train it. So this makes you actually it makes clinician to be sure of the accuracy of the narration they are giving, depending on the calculation which is done when manufacturing. So I think it has more advantage of basically taking into account the capacity of our facility. I think that's what I can say for now. But the other ones, we can also still discuss them when we are discussing moving from the transitioning from Arothen to other drugs. So we'll touch some of the other advantages.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndaba. Do you want to jump in for a few words?
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Dr. Papicho. I think my only experience with, I think, draw over, especially on the UAM, is the fact that, you know, the vaporizer, I know we'll discuss this later, it's low, it's a low maintenance kind of vaporizer, and also built to withstand different like weather or environmental changes or environmental factors. So that also, for a patient who is breathing spontaneously, and we know that the vaporizer also it relies on the negative pressure that the patient is generating. So for me it helps, because it does not really increase the work of breathing, because it's low resistance. So the patient is comfortable on it, even as they are waking up from anesthesia, as we are weaning them off. And then the other advantages, I think, like we've mentioned earlier, and also Dr. Sweetbird mentioned. Yeah, so I think that would be my contribution for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mariam, can you move to the next slide, please? These are the specificities of the UAM vaporizer. Okay, it has low resistance, easy for use at ambient pressure. When filling, you don't need a key, you just open the knob and then you pour in your inhalation agent. Available for halogens, isoflurane, and sevoflurane, depending on the order that you have made. The silver button on the selector wheel is used to unlock so that the wheel can move and put at the percentage which you would like to deliver your inhalation agent. It's also advised to empty the vaporizer at least monthly so that you prevent formation of a deposit of the thymo that accumulates, especially when using it with halogen, which contains the thymo as a preservative. We've all seen this vaporizer and then we know how easy it is to use them. Next, please. So here is another point we want to discuss. The concern that we should have in mind when switching from halogen to isoflurane. It's no longer a secret. This is well known from everybody that soon or later, halogen will be part of the history, just like there's chloroform, there's ether. We've moved on before. Remember when we talked about history, that's what they started from. They started from ether, they went to chloroform and other agents. Now it's time for halogen to join them as well. We're going to leave halogen and move to other more agents that are being said they're best than halogen. So what should we have in mind when doing that? We can move to next. When discussing this, I would like all of us to participate so that we know exactly how we are going to build this transition, because it will be everything of our daily practice. So we have exactly to have in mind how we are going to be doing it. What will be the concern when conducting your anesthesia? The cost, sustainability of the new agent that we are going to go for. And what are we going to be using to give out those agents? These are the points that we are going to discuss now, okay? With my two panelists, I'm going to engage them. And maybe one of them can discuss about the conduct of anesthesia, and the other one to discuss about other points. Dr. Sweetbird, can you take it up on the conduct of anesthesia? And Dr. Ndaba, you will discuss the cost and sustainability.
Okay, thank you very much, Papicho. And actually, yours, of course, Aroten has been a very good friend of ours. And not only for the properties it adds, but also the cost that I think that was one of the favorite factor we had. So, of course, yes, going down, going out, and then things have to continue. So I'll discuss it mainly on what are the possible change we should do, basically on induction. Because remember, on the maintenance, we have options. We have ISO, which has been there, but also we have another drug, save, which is expensive. But some they can even do TIVA. But I think when the conduct of anesthesia, the main area where I think we have to change our, we maybe have impact on or modification on our practice is on the induction. And I think most of us have been trained that, even including the case we had initially, most of us we are trained that when it comes to pediatric induction, inhalation in the first line. But I think one of the modifications we should do one of the modifications which should be done is now I think for those kids which we can get their IV access, I think going with IV induction could be one of the options, and I think that's one of the ways it should be encouraged for now, especially for those centers where they cannot afford getting servo as alternative. Remember, with the ISO you cannot use it for induction. It's irritating, the smell, so it's not a good option. So I think for certain number of cases, I think having a way making a cannulation user friendly for the kid, so that you can do induction by IV. I think that's the best option we should be targeting, and this includes using the maybe lignocaine patch, things like cannulating with the mother is around the kid. All of other anesthesia options we have for the kid. Some people even UAM. So I think that's what I can say. But also getting drug like save the year, of course, yes. In the beginning we were like with the draw over, you cannot save won't be an option. But most of the manufacturers, especially talking about the Gradient, we have made it possible so that the draw over can use servo. So for those center, and remember we have a machine with the vaporizer. So for those center where they can afford servo, and they have two VAPs whereby they have ISO and servo. Induction can go with servo, and then you maintain with the ISO. But also another thing which now, of course, we all know Allothane, how strong it was, and that's I think that's another part of the people were addicted to it. With the ISO, you need a proper balanced anesthesia. So when you say proper balanced anesthesia, it means that you have to make sure you give muscle relaxant, you have to make sure you give strong analgesia, and then the ISO goes only for attenuation or anesthesia. So I think those are the modifications which our colleagues they have to modify in their daily practice. I think that's what I can say. Maybe I will allow Ndaba, or I should not take much of their time, and maybe I will allow our colleagues also to comment if they have any suggestion. Then we can discuss further. Thank you, Papicho.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweetbird. Before I go to Dr. Ndaba, maybe one of our colleagues on the call would like to come up with something or add up on what you said. Please feel free, unmute yourself and make some comments or ask a question. Before, okay, as our colleagues are still making up the mind or formulating their ideas, I can just make a few comments to say the challenge that we can face in the conduct of anesthesia, if you want to go for TIVA, is the cost of what is involved during TIVA. With our limited resources that we have, TIVA will be a very difficult practice to embark into. Very few hospitals will be able to do TIVA throughout and make it to be almost a daily practice of their anesthesia. Yeah, sure. Dr. Ndaba, do you have a few comments that you can make? And then you can also make comments on the sustainability of the new agent that we are rushing to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Papicho. I think all has been well said by Dr. Sweetpet and yourself, regarding the changes that we may have to make to our anesthesia practice now that halothane is phasing out, which, like Dr. Sweetbed mentioned, the biggest advantage we had with halothane is the fact that we could use it for gaseous induction, as opposed to our, the nearest neighbor, which is isoflurane. Sevoflurane is a good, I think, is also an alternative to halothane, like Dr. Sweetbed mentioned. But I think we'll talk about the cost implications for the newer inhalation agents. Otherwise, I think for me, I totally agree with some of the effects that the halothane transition would have on our practice, as outlined by Dr. Sweetbed. It would have been nice also to hear from our participants what sort of experience they have and how this transition would affect their practice. Anyway, suffice to say, I think anytime, please feel free to raise up your hand and give your experience or any comments. So, yeah, so alternative to, halothane induction, we have several fluorine for inhalational induction that we can use even on the universal anesthesia machines that we have. I think we all know that we can actually secure a sevoflurane vaporizer, and so that can help us to retain some of the properties that halothane has, specifically the ability to induce a child on inhalation. So not all is lost. I know it's somewhat a challenge when you have the isoflurane vaporizer alone on the machine. So it means that you cannot do inhalation or induction completely. So you have to rely on making sure you have an IV access available, and you do your intravenous induction. So sevoflurane vaporizers are very much available, and so we can easily switch. So now, what are some of the cost and sustainability implications if we do not have halothane? Maybe I can pause here and just ask any of our participants if they have any idea of the cost implication of changing, transitioning to the newer inhalational agents other than halothane. Is there a cost implication attached to this transition? Clement, do you have any comment? What do you know? Is there any cost implications for using the newer inhalational agents? Please feel free to unmute. It's a discussion. Just let us know what you feel.
Yeah, there is a cost because some of our hospitals, they don't they if you request or you purchase to buy the isoflurane, it will take you a lot of time to come on your site because our government uh, government government I don't know how to say, but our government tried to get this purchase from MSDs. So MSD maybe maybe sometimes they tell you there is no isoflurane. Maybe the lot of cost because the hospital will not have money. So I think it's a big cost for us. So what to do, I don't know. Maybe I should give us what to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clement, for that very valuable contribution. Indeed, this is a big topic of discussion. I would really be happy to see each one on the platform weighing in on this topic and also just share some experience. So I can see Tumaini has a hand on. Please feel free to unmute and make your contribution.
Okay, I have a question. For when to halogen to phase out, because in our stock here in the hospital we have a lot of halogen in our pharmacy. So to when not to use total halogen. Hello?
Hello, Tumaini. We almost lost you towards the end,
Okay.
but I think we can hear you now.
Yeah, it's a question. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear
If
you.
I heard you,
Okay.
Dr. Ndaba, if I heard him, my friend Tumaini clear, he was asking to say in his pharmacy they still have some Alloten. When is it going to end the availability of Alloten on the market? That was his question.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and indeed calls for an input from any of the other panelists. So I know there's different countries and different hospitals have got different quantities and reserve of halothane. In other parts of Africa, the halothane is completely out of stock, and then there's no halothane that is being supplied or that is being manufactured on the market. So whatever stock we have right now in our countries, I think it's just old stock that is just probably yet to deplete or yet to finish. In some hospitals, they still have plenty, probably maybe their ministries purchased a lot of it. In some hospitals, they've got few. In others, they've got completely nothing. So what is there now and what we know now is that halothane manufacturing has ceased, and then supply has also ceased. So it's just a stock we have in our hospitals or maybe in our countries that can still sustain us. But once that is done, it means that we have to transition to the other inhalational agents. I think that's how I can respond to that, unless anybody else has another response regarding the availability of halothane in our different institutions. Charles?
You have
Yes?
any other comment to that answer, or you're okay with it? Tumaini, was the answer clear to you, or you still need?
Yeah, I already understand what the doctor said.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, Dr. Ndaba, you're on the floor. Please continue.
Yes. Yeah. So indeed, availability of halothane really depends on how much stock was provided in the first place. And like in different countries, different hospitals, they've got different quantities still remaining. But the fact is, once it runs out, we may not have halothane anymore, and we may have to transition to the other inhalational agents. But something that, Tumaini, you have to start thinking about now and start preparing for that eventuality that when halothane runs out of your stock, it means you may have to start thinking about which direction your practice would go. Yeah, so in terms of cost, again, I know Clement mentioned that obviously halothane has been one of the cheapest inhalational agents among all of those that are available right now on the market. It's cheaper and has been very available. Almost always halothane is ever there, and so with the new inhalational agents like isoflurane and sevoflurane, actually the cost is higher than that of halothane. Sevoflurane is more expensive than isoflurane, and isoflurane is more expensive than halothane. So the cost is a real issue. Like Clement had mentioned, actually, it's sometimes that it depends on how much resources the hospital may have to be able to purchase either sevoflurane, which is a bit more expensive, or isoflurane. So what is likely to be purchased actually might be isoflurane because it's fairly cheaper compared to sevoflurane. So what is being said so far is that in the long run, we are going to see more of sevo and isoflurane also being manufactured as more and more industries are beginning to start manufacturing isoflurane and sevoflurane. So that will also affect the market price so much that I think as time goes, we might have a good access and good availability of even sevoflurane that is currently one of the most expensive inhalation agents. So there is some hope actually as time goes in terms of the cost implication and the availability of these inhalational agents. And now, like Dr. Sweetbed had mentioned, the UAM has also evolved. Now the latest version of the UAM has 2 vaporizers, which allows you to actually use to have either sevo or isoflurane. So when you have both vaporizers, you can do gaseous induction with sevoflurane, and then once the child sleeps, and then you can turn to isoflurane so that you can just save on the sevoflurane, which is more expensive, and also it being a better drug. So I think that's what I can say for now, unless my colleagues have additional comments to make, or any other colleagues on the call. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndaba, for that wonderful contribution. And thank you to our panelists who have been very active and making up contribution as well. The last point, we're going to discuss it in the next slide that is coming, vaporizer related issue, okay? Whereby first, these are few studies that were done. This one is in the UK where they were checking the use of vaporizers at different temperature to see which one was how steady the concentration of the vapor was going to be given out, okay? Yeah, so the conclusion was not very amazing because they had to end up modifying the dropper vaporizer to make it just in a manner that it can easily accommodate agent like sevoflurane for it to be used on its own manner, looking at its chemical and physical properties. Okay, next slide, please. So now we come to the issue related to the vaporizer. Remember, we had 3 concerns: the conduct of anesthesia, cost implication, and the issue related to the vaporizer itself. Okay, so to comment this, next slide. To comment this, I'll call up Dr. Sweetbert, who can make few comments on the issue that we can face when using the two vaporizers, and is also going to discuss later on the guideline that we can easily follow when it comes to switching from halogen use to isoflurane use. Dr. Sweetbert, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you can hear me, yeah?
Very much.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you for preaching. Yes. So I think there have been so many discussions looking at was somewhere like looking at the complication, what you can get when you make sure this
Dr. Sweetbert, Dr. Sweetbert, Dr. Sweetbert, can you please come close to the mic, please?
Yeah, can you hear me now? That's what I asked.
Yes, now.
Can you hear me?
Better.
Yeah.
Yes, it's better now.
There are so much looking at doctors. Accuracy when it comes to using the same vapor for another inhalation agent, and this is specifically for aerosol and ISO. So, looking at their chemical properties, when you look at their chemical properties of the aerosol and ISO, specifically discussing the boiling point, you will see they are almost same, 9 to 50, and actually this is the point whereby pressure allows the liquid to change to the gas form, and actually so having these characteristics very close to each other, meaning 49 and 50. And remember, the way the vaporizer are made, they are made to keep the separated pressure and temperature, so that should allow the constant evaporation of the inhalation agent. So looking at that, you will find that even those studies who were looking at the accuracy of the vaporizer, you will see it was within the acceptable range, which is around 10 to 20% of the state you have set. So, taking that into account, looking at the acceptable variation, looking at the characteristics of the aerosol and ISO, you find they are studied, which actually they said it is possible, but it was left more to be guided by the manufacturers. But yes, the possibility, and that's why there are so many literature which have been done, which actually they looked at how much aerosol can be delivered by aerosol vaporizer, and actually the results were kind of promising. So looking at their characteristics, I would say there's still opportunity to use the aerosol vaporizer to deliver ISO and give anesthesia safely. I think I don't want to discuss much physics. Let's discuss more of the practical side of it. So I will leave it there. Then we can discuss more with our participants if a question comes up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweetbert, for that insight. Next slide, please. So here now comes the recommendation made by Gradian when you want to move from halogen to isoflurane. When time for switching has come, or if you happen to have little halogen, then time to time you want to switch from iso to halogen back. So what are the recommendations that were made in a safer manner that you can use the same vaporizer and then prevent yourself from having challenges or hurting the patient. Dr. Ndaba, would you mind to take us through into these steps and strategies that have been put in place for switching?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Papicho. I'll start by mentioning that this circular was made available from Gradient to the users across their markets a couple of months ago, just as a guideline or as a guidance on how we can use the halothane vaporizer for isoflurane as we transition from one agent to the other. So I know there's also been a lot of reports even before the transition that people have safely used halothane vaporizers for isoflurane in some countries, especially West Africa. I remember we had a presentation, a discussion on this halothane transition some months back, and there was a lot of testimony that people have been using isoflurane in halothane vaporizers for some time, and their experience has been okay. And so for them, they actually don't find it strange to actually use the two inhalational agents interchangeably within one vaporizer. So even for the universal anesthesia machine, I think there's this memo which was circulated on how we can use halothane, isoflurane for halothane vaporizers. So I think like there's been some studies which have been done to compare the effects, both technical and clinical, of using the two inhalational agents interchangeably in the same vaporizer. And even Gradient has actually done some studies to compare in terms of the output for isoflurane and also testing for halothane in the same halothane vaporizer. And so they found that there is actually no difference in terms of the output when you use either inhalational agents in that vaporizer. So I'll just quickly summarize. I know this, some of you already have read this memo. If you don't have it, please let us know. We can send to you a copy so that at your own time, you can thoroughly go through these steps, very important steps when you decide to use isoflurane into the halothane vaporizer. So the most important precaution here indicated in the warning box and symbol here is that you should only use one agent at a time, meaning that you need to avoid mixing, okay, the two inhalational agents in the same vaporizer. It's dangerous and it's risky and may not guarantee a safe anesthetic at the end of the day. So always make sure that you are using one inhalational agent at a time and you are not mixing two inhalational agents. So when this procedure is followed, halothane or isoflurane can safely be used in the same vaporizer without calibration. The positions on the knobs are essentially the same. The concentrations are essentially the same, and the output is similar. However, for sevoflurane, it cannot be applied. Sevoflurane is very different from halothane and isoflurane. So you cannot use the halothane vaporizer for sevoflurane, but you can use the halothane vaporizer for isoflurane as well. Please take that precaution very, very closely. So I'll just summarize the steps you take if you want to use the halogen vaporizer for isoflurane. So step number 1, you have to make sure that you drain all the inhalation agents which is within the vaporizer. So if you have halogen and then you want to use isoflurane, you make sure that you drain whatever remaining halogen in the vaporizer. You drain it completely to dryness, okay? Or maybe you use it on the patient and it runs out. And then remember, this procedure has to be done before you actually begin to do a case. You can't start decanting when the procedure is going on. And that's where the importance of machine check comes in. So step 1 is to make sure that you empty the vaporizer as you prepare to fill it. And I need to turn the knob to maximum
Hello,
setting,
Dr. Ndapa.
even as you are. Hello, Dr. Papicho, can you hear me?
We lost you at some point. If you could just repeat yourself in the last paragraph
Yeah.
that you said.
Okay, so after draining or decanting all the inhalational agent, remember each vaporizer has got you know, a decanting what can I call, a key that you can use to open up when we are decanting to remove thymo. It's the same place that you use to decant the inhalational agent that you want to remove. So you open that, you make sure that you decant, and once it completely decants, and then you turn the knob to the maximum, okay, so that you can blow out the, like, wash out or blow out the any residue or remaining inhalational agent in the vaporizer. So you want to blow to dry the inside of the vaporizer with the fresh gas. So you make sure that you turn the knob to the maximum completely. If you are going to reach 5 and leave it open. So that step 3, you turn on the oxygen supply to 10 liters per minute, okay? Full capacity, so that you are washing, you are cleaning, you are drying the vaporizer, in other words. So once you open the oxygen supply, you let it run for 15 minutes. You see that you can't do this procedure when the operation has already started. So this is something you want to do during machine check as you prepare to start your cases. So allow the oxygen to blow your vaporizer for 15 minutes. Once that is done, essentially you are ready to fill in the inhalation agents. If you are going to fill in isoflurane, you are ready to fill in. But in case you have a gas analyzer, which I think most of us in our facilities, even my hospital, I don't have a gas analyzer device. But in case some of you have gas analyzer, you can actually check at this stage, after blowing out the inhalational agent, you check if you still have any remaining residue, okay? If you're still getting any remaining residue. If you are still getting a reading when you use a gas analyzer, you can repeat the steps so that you completely wash out all the previous inhalational agents. But I know most of us don't have gas analyzers. So at the end of step 3, and if you are sure that you've dried your vaporizer well, you can fill in. You turn off the knob, turn off the vaporizer, and then you can fill in the new inhalational agent. I think I'll just run through the 3 steps. The other information, I don't know if Dr. Papicho, we can go through the other information. Maybe I can just read it very quickly. So gradients draw over UAM vaporizers are labeled for halogen and isoflurane and are calibrated the same for both agents. So the existing vaporizers we have, they are actually capable of being used for iso or halothane vaporizers. They are draw-over vaporizers. So due to their molecular structure, halothane and isoflurane vaporize at nearly the same rate. So the physical properties are more or less the same for iso and halothane. Then the gradient UAM vaporizer has a tolerance band that allows for compensation for temperature and pressure. Remember, we mentioned as one of the disadvantages for a draw-over vaporizer is sometimes it's affected by its environmental or vaporizer temperature and pressure. But for the UAM draw-over vaporizer, I think it's designed in such a way that it remains stable regardless of the pressure and temperature changes. So it compensates well. So when isoflurane is used in a halothane vaporizer and halothane is used in an isoflurane vaporizer, the agent vaporization rates are within the acceptable tolerance, meaning that the percentage indication on the knob is still very accurate. So what you are dialing and what you are getting is basically the same. So to use an alternative inhalational agent in Gradient's UAM vaporizer, for example, isoflurane in a UAM vaporizer labeled for halothane, the following drying procedure should be followed each time a different drug is introduced to the UAM vaporizer. So you need to make sure that you follow the steps correctly if you want to use a different inhalational agent. Very important. Yeah, so I think for those who have not seen this, please feel free to let us know. Then we can communicate this to you specifically for your own reference. I think Dr. Papicho, I'll end here for any additional comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful discussion, Dr. Ndaba, on the issue related to the vaporizer. Before we wind up, I don't know if any comment from the participants, from our colleague on the other side of the call. We want to hear your comment or any issue that is still arising after we've discussed this. Feel free.
Hello?
Sure.
Hello?
Please, we can start with Shedai, and then after Shedai, Wigan will speak.
Oh.
Yes, Shedai.
I think all the clarification are clear, but the challenge is most of the machine, especially in peripheral, they don't have gas analyzers. So I am not sure if they could be able to see that. Or, for example, the vaporizer was filled with halothane, and maybe you want to use ISO to make sure that all the halothane is off. I think that could be one of the challenge. Another challenge is because, especially in peripheral, the anesthetists, most of the time they come in shifts. So they might find that one has used maybe halothane, and because you have thought that the halothane and ISO can be used on the same vaporizer, and there's a risk of mixing the agent. So I think emphasis is needed more, especially in peripheral, but in other areas I think it can be used. But my doubt is in the peripherals, there might be challenge, especially on doing analysis to see that there is no agent before you put another agent. Thank you.
Wonderful contribution. Dr. Sweetbird, any comment on that one?
Yeah, no, I don't have much, but other than I think as previous speaker said, I think I would encourage people that for those who still have ISO, they better go the halothane. They better go with halothane until they finish that halothane, and then for example, I know in Tanzania, MSD has close to 67,000 bottles, which I think that can take us to the next 9 months. So there are some facilities they may get Arothen until maybe somewhere next year, May, June. So once they have finished their Arothen, I think that will be the right time for them to move to follow this procedure, and maybe they can move toward the ISO, and then that would be safe. Remember, another thing we should be done for I know some of the hospitals, they have more than one machine. They want to switch one machine earlier than the other one. I think the most important thing is putting the label on the machine, like this is used for ISO, so that no one can meet the agent. Otherwise, I think as we have seen, looking at the chemical properties, looking at the way the vaporizer is made, there's no doubt that you can use ISO in earthen vaporizer. And then that's, as Ndaba mentioned, that have been the tests have been done the tests have been done, and then that we are promising. But also even the literature we have seen, it also makes clear that it is possible. So I think there is no doubt that patients will be safe. And for those who still have Arothen, yes, you can. But those who they want to move, they should follow the procedure, and then they can continue with the agent they have. Otherwise, we all know we have this. We have our WhatsApp groups. We have our communication channels. If ever come up with any doubt, you have any question, you need some support, please, you know where to find us, and we'll always be there 24/7 to support you. Otherwise, Ndaba and Papicho, thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweetbet. I saw Wigan had opened the mic. He wanted to speak. Please go ahead and speak. Wigan, please unmute yourself and speak. Okay, maybe he has changed his mind. Otherwise, mine is to thank you all. Thank you for coming to this discussion. I'll hand over the floor to Gajima for final remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Papicho, for your great moderation on this topic, and also thank you so much, Dr. Ndaba and Sweetbats, as far as participants, for your vital time to have you until now. Okay, well, thank you so much. And apart from what we have today, just as what Dr. Sweetbat said, just like insisting you, once you want to shift from one agent to another, as the Dr. Sweetbat said, please keep in touch with us. We are working with you. We can shift you from one agent to another in serene manner. So we are free anytime. So please keep in touch with us. We can help you how to shift it to that area where you want to be. So by saying that, this is one of the webinar products for the Guardian, and we are almost closing shortly, but it's not an end. We are hoping to see you for the next time and for the next clinical webinar that will be in the next week. Thank you so much and have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.